The citadel was already dying. Fire climbed the curved walls like hungry animals, turning white stone into black scars. The sky above the alien capital burned with falling ships, long trails of light cutting through thick smoke. Sirens wailed in a language older than human history, calling soldiers who would never answer. At the center of the ruin, a single human moved forward. His name was Evan Cross, a soldier from Earth, sent as part of a small alliance force that had never been meant to fight a full war. His armor was cracked, one shoulder hanging loose. Blood ran down his arm, mixing with ash and rain. In his hand he held a broken blade, once sharp, now snapped near the middle from blocking an enemy strike. Every step hurt, but Evan kept walking. Behind him, the last human dropship burned on the landing platform. There was no escape, no backup. Only the mission that had been whispered in desperate alien councils: protect the princess, reach the inner gate, do not let the enemy take it. Evan did not fully understand what the inner gate was. No human did. The aliens spoke of it like a myth, a living heart buried beneath the palace. Some called it a weapon, others called it a guardian, a few called it a god. All Evan knew was that the enemy wanted it, and that the alien princess was the key. He found her at the end of a shattered hall, beneath a collapsed archway carved with glowing symbols. She lay against the wall, her long silver-blue hair spread across the floor like spilled light. One of her arms was twisted at an impossible angle. Dark violet blood stained her robes. She was breathing, barely. Evan dropped to one knee beside her, ignoring the pain screaming through his body. "Princess," he said softly. Her eyes opened. Large, luminous, and afraid, she tried to speak and failed. Her chest shook as she coughed, violet blood touching her lips. Evan quickly removed his helmet and pressed it near her mouth so she could breathe easier through the filters. "Easy," he said. "I'm here." She looked at him for a long moment, as if trying to decide if he was real. Then her hand closed weakly around his wrist. Her fingers were cold. "You came," she whispered, her voice thin but clear. "Of course," Evan said. "That was the job." "No," she said. "Not the job, the choice." He didn't answer. He didn't know what she meant. A distant explosion shook the hall. Dust fell from the ceiling. The enemy was close now, very close. The princess struggled to sit up, pain flashing across her face. Evan moved to support her, but she shook her head. "No time," she said. "Listen to me, human." She looked past him toward a massive sealed door at the end of the hall. It was unlike anything Evan had seen. The surface was smooth and organic, like bone mixed with metal. Soft light pulsed beneath it, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. "The inner gate," she said. Evan nodded. "That's what we're here for. Can you open it?" Her grip tightened on his wrist. "I can," she said, "but only once, and only in one of two ways." Evan frowned. "What does that mean?" She swallowed, gathering strength. "The gate is alive," she said. "It was grown, not built. It protects our world, but it demands a price. Royal blood binds it, my blood." Evan felt something cold settle in his chest. "What kind of price?" he asked. Her eyes met his. "Death," she said simply. Evan's jaw tightened. "No. There has to be another way." "There is," she said, "but no one has ever survived it." She gestured weakly toward the broken blade in his hand. "You may end me," she said. "Strike my heart. My death will awaken the gate fully. It will destroy everything outside this city." "The enemy, their ships, their armies." Evan stared at her in horror. "I'm not doing that," he said immediately. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Or," she continued, "you may enter the gate." Evan followed her gaze to the living door. "Enter it how?" he asked. She hesitated. Fear flickered across her face, raw and honest. "By merging," she said. "Your mind, your body, your will. The gate will test you, break you, take everything you are." "And if I fail?" Evan asked quietly. "Then it will consume you," she said, "and close forever." Another explosion rocked the citadel. The lights flickered. From far away, Evan could hear the heavy steps of enemy walkers moving through the streets. Time was running out. Evan looked at the broken blade in his hand. He had killed before. He had killed enemies. He had killed to survive, but this, he looked back at the princess. She was shaking now, whether from pain or fear he could not tell. "Why me?" he asked. "Why a human?" "Because humans are different," she said. "Your kind survives things that should destroy you. You endure pain we avoid. You choose sacrifice where others seek safety." She took a shaky breath. "Our scientists tried to merge with the gate. Warriors, thinkers, even my ancestors, all failed. Their minds shattered, their bodies burned away." Her eyes locked onto his. "But you," she whispered, "you are still standing." Evan wanted to argue, to say he was just a soldier who got lucky, that he was afraid, that he didn't want this choice. But the truth was there, heavy and unavoidable. If he did nothing, the enemy would take the gate. Billions would die. If he killed her, the war would end, but so would she. If he entered the gate, there was no promise he would come back. "Say it again," Evan said quietly. She blinked. "Say what?" "The choice," he said. Her voice shook, but she spoke the words. "In me," she said, "or enter me." The words were not intimate, not tempting. They were desperate, final. Evan closed his eyes. He thought of Earth, of blue skies and oceans, of a small apartment and a plant he always forgot to water, of people who would never know what happened here. He thought of the princess, bleeding on cold stone, still willing to die to save her world. And he thought of the gate, waiting. He opened his eyes. Slowly, carefully, he set the broken blade down on the floor. The princess watched him, her breath catching. "I won't kill you," Evan said. Relief and fear crossed her face at the same time. "And I won't run," he continued. He stood, legs shaking, and turned toward the inner gate. "If this thing wants to test someone," he said, "it can test me." The living door reacted instantly. The light beneath its surface brightened. The heartbeat grew faster. The air around it hummed, vibrating through Evan's bones. The princess reached out. "Human," she whispered. "If you enter, you may not be you when you return." Evan glanced back at her. "Then make sure someone remembers who I was," he said. He stepped forward. The surface of the gate rippled like water. Warmth spread through the air, not burning but heavy. Evan felt pressure against his mind, like unseen hands testing his thoughts. He took one more breath. Then he stepped inside. The gate closed behind him. The princess screamed his name as the light flared and the citadel shook, not with destruction but with awakening. Somewhere deep within the living heart of the world, humanity knocked on a door no species had ever opened before. Darkness did not take Evan Cross. Light did. It poured into him from every direction, white and blue, and colors his eyes could not name. It pressed against his skin, his bones, his thoughts. The moment he crossed the threshold of the inner gate, the world he knew vanished. There was no floor beneath his feet, no sky above his head. He was floating, suspended in something warm and alive. It felt like thick water mixed with air, carrying weight but also holding him gently, as if the gate itself was deciding whether to crush him or protect him. Evan tried to breathe. The air entered his lungs easily, though it tasted strange, like metal and rain. Then the pain came. It started in his chest, sharp and sudden, like a spear driven straight through his heart. His body arched as he cried out, but no sound escaped. The light wrapped around him, sinking into his skin. Images flooded his mind. He saw alien cities rising from oceans of crystal. He saw ancient wars fought before humans ever discovered fire. He saw kings and queens standing before the gate, offering blood, offering life, and being rejected. Their screams echoed through him. Evan clenched his fists. "No," he whispered, "not like this." The gate responded. Something touched his mind, not a voice, not words, a presence, old, vast, curious. It pressed against his thoughts, digging deeper, searching for weakness. Pain flared again. His memories began to surface without permission. The gate saw Earth. It saw Evan as a child, running through rain, laughing as his shoes filled with water. It saw his mother working late nights, tired but smiling. It saw the day he enlisted, fear hidden behind a straight back. It saw him holding dying friends on distant battlefields. It saw him keep moving when his body begged him to stop. The presence hesitated. The pain did not fade, but it changed. It became a test instead of an attack. Outside the gate, the world was burning. The princess lay where Evan had left her, the floor beneath her glowing faintly now. The inner gate pulsed with strong, steady light, sending vibrations through the citadel. Ancient systems long thought dead flickered back to life. Alien soldiers stared in disbelief as walls reshaped themselves, sealing breaches, forming barriers of living metal. Defensive towers rose from beneath the streets, aiming toward the sky. But the enemy did not retreat. Their fleet descended lower, weapons charging. Massive walkers pushed through ruined districts, firing into the heart of the capital. Inside the command chamber, surviving alien leaders watched the readings with fear. "The gate is active," one said, "but unstable." Another turned to the princess, her voice shaking. "Where is the human?" She did not answer. She was barely conscious, her body weakening as the gate drew power through her bloodline. Pain rippled through her veins like fire. She felt Evan's presence faintly, like a distant star, alive but suffering. Inside the gate, Evan screamed again. The presence tightened around him. It showed him visions of failure. He saw himself breaking, his mind tearing apart under the weight of the gate. He saw the enemy overrunning the planet. He saw the princess dying alone. Then the presence pushed harder. "Why do you endure?" The question was not spoken, but Evan felt it clearly. "I don't know," he gasped. "I just do." The gate pushed deeper, searching for purpose, for reason, for something logical. Evan had none. He only had choice. "I didn't come here to be special," he said through clenched teeth. "I came because someone had to." The pressure paused. The gate showed him another vision. Human soldiers standing against impossible odds. Civilians protecting strangers. Doctors working until their hands shook. Humans refusing to give up even when hope was gone. The gate had seen many species, none like this. The presence loosened slightly. Connection formed. Evan felt it, not control, not ownership, but partnership. The gate did not bow to him. It opened itself cautiously, like a massive creature allowing a small one to touch its heart. Energy surged through him. His pain did not vanish, but it became manageable, like a storm he could lean into instead of being torn apart by. Evan's body glowed faintly as living patterns spread across his skin, sinking beneath flesh and bone. His heartbeat matched the gate's rhythm. Outside, the citadel shook as the gate's defenses activated fully. Beams of focused energy lanced into the sky, cutting through enemy ships with terrifying precision. Shields expanded across the city, absorbing bombardments that would have flattened mountains. Alien soldiers stared upward in awe. "The gate is responding," one whispered. To the human, the enemy fleet hesitated. Then they adapted. They focused fire on the inner gate itself. Massive cannons locked on, charging for a final strike. Inside the gate, Evan felt the danger instantly. The presence recoiled, sensing damage. Evan did not wait. "Route power to the shields," he said aloud, not knowing if the gate could hear words. It responded anyway. Energy shifted. Shields strengthened. The impact rocked the citadel but did not break it. Evan's knees buckled as the strain doubled. Blood ran from his nose. His vision blurred. "You want to test me?" he growled. "Fine." He pushed back, not with strength but with will. He remembered every time he had been told to stop and hadn't. Every time his body failed and he dragged it forward anyway. He offered that stubborn refusal to the gate. The presence reacted, surprised, almost cautious. It had tested for power. Humans offered endurance. The princess cried out as pain tore through her again. The gate was drawing more energy now, and she was the bridge. "Stop," she whispered weakly. "You will kill him." But Evan heard her. Through the gate, through the bond, he felt her fear. "No," he said softly. "Not yet." He redirected the flow. Energy that would have consumed him instead poured into the gate's outer systems. Weapons came online across the planet. Ancient fleets, buried beneath oceans and deserts, awakened and rose. The enemy fleet panicked. They had come expecting a broken world. They found a living one. The battle turned. Alien commanders watched as the enemy ships fell back, shattered and burning. Walkers collapsed under precision strikes. Communications flooded with reports of enemy retreat. But Evan was failing. The gate felt it. The presence tightened, trying to support him, but the strain was too much. Human bodies were strong but not infinite. The princess felt his pain like her own. She forced herself upright, screaming as her broken arm moved. Blood soaked her robes as she dragged herself toward the gate. "Listen to me," she whispered into the living surface. "He has done enough." The gate pulsed, uncertain. Evan gasped, his vision narrowing. "I can keep going," he muttered, but his body betrayed him. Darkness crept in at the edges of his sight. The princess pressed her forehead against the gate. "You have proven your worth," she said, voice breaking. "Let him live." For the first time in its long existence, the gate hesitated for compassion. The presence withdrew slightly, easing the pressure on Evan's mind. The connection weakened but did not break. Energy levels stabilized. Outside, the enemy fleet jumped to hyperspace, fleeing in disorder. The war, for now, was over. Inside the gate, Evan floated in silence, barely conscious. The presence wrapped around him gently now, no longer testing, no longer judging. It was learning, and humanity had left its mark. The gate did not release him, not yet. It held him, protecting what it had claimed as its partner. As the galaxy beyond the shattered citadel began to realize something terrifying and new. Humans were not meant to rule ancient powers. They were meant to survive them. Silence followed the battle. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy silence that comes after something vast has moved and settled. The sky above the alien capital was no longer burning. Broken ships drifted like dark shadows, slowly falling apart as emergency systems failed. Smoke thinned. Fires dimmed. The world was still alive. Inside the citadel, the inner gate glowed softly, its light steady and calm. Ancient systems across the planet returned to rest, as if a great guardian had opened one eye, judged the danger gone, and chosen to sleep again. Alien soldiers stood in the streets, exhausted and stunned. Many knelt, pressing their hands to the ground in relief. Others simply stared at the palace, unable to understand what had happened. They all asked the same question: where is the human? The princess lay at the base of the gate, her strength almost gone. Medics surrounded her, working carefully, afraid to disturb the living surface behind her. Her injuries were severe, but she was alive. Barely. She did not let herself rest. Her eyes remained fixed on the gate. She could still feel him, faint, warm, present. Evan Cross did not wake. Inside the gate, he floated in darkness once more, but it was different now. The pain had faded to a distant ache. The crushing pressure was gone. What remained was awareness. He felt held. The presence was there, vast and quiet. It no longer searched him. It no longer tested. It simply existed beside him, like an ocean that had accepted a stone into its depths. Time had no meaning here. Evan drifted between thoughts and memories. Sometimes he dreamed of Earth. Sometimes he saw alien stars. Sometimes he felt the gate learning from him, slowly, carefully. Endurance, adaptation, refusal to surrender. These things flowed naturally from him, not as lessons, but as facts of being human. The presence responded in its own way. It showed him balance, patience, long memory. Together they existed. Outside, days passed. The enemy did not return. Across the galaxy, signals spread faster than fear. A world once marked for conquest had awakened an ancient defense and driven back a superior fleet. Worse, it had done so with a human at its center. Humanity's name began to change meaning. Back on the planet, alien leaders gathered in the palace council chamber, now repaired by living structures that reshaped themselves at need. "The gate is stable," one said. "But the human remains inside." Another lowered their crest in respect. "No one has ever remained so long." The The princess stood before them, supported but unbowed. "He is alive," she said firmly. "You cannot know that," one replied gently. "I do," she said. "I feel him." They fell silent. Finally, the eldest among them spoke. "If he does not return," the elder said, "he will be remembered as the savior of our world." The princess's eyes hardened. "He will return," she said. "Humans endure." As if in answer, the gate pulsed. Inside, Evan stirred. Something had changed. The presence shifted, withdrawing slightly, creating space. For the first time since entering the gate, Evan felt direction, a sense of ending or beginning. He focused, gathering himself. His body felt heavy, unfamiliar, but intact. His thoughts were clear. "Is it time?" he whispered. The presence responded not with words but with understanding. "Yes." The gate opened. Light spilled into the chamber, soft but powerful. Medics stumbled back as the living surface parted like water. A human figure emerged and collapsed onto the floor. The princess cried out. They rushed forward. Evan Cross lay still, his armor fused and reshaped, marked with faint glowing lines that slowly faded. His breathing was shallow but steady. His heart beat strong, alive. The princess fell to her knees beside him, tears streaking her face. She reached out, placing her hand on his chest, feeling the rhythm beneath her palm. "You came back," she whispered. Evan's eyes opened. They were the same eyes, tired, human. He looked at her and smiled weakly. "Told you," he said. "Not done yet." Cheers echoed through the chamber. Soldiers shouted. Some laughed. Others wept openly. The gate sealed behind him, its light dimming to a resting glow. For the first time in history, someone had entered the inner gate and returned. Human recovery was slow. Evan spent weeks in a healing chamber, monitored day and night. His body had changed in small ways, denser bone structure, improved neural stability, but nothing unnatural. The gate had not rewritten him. It had learned from him. Scientists studied the data in disbelief. The gate did not dominate him, one said. It adapted to him. The princess visited every day. They spoke little at first. Words were not needed. Survival had created its own understanding. When Evan finally stood on his own, supported only by stubborn will, the world outside waited. A gathering unlike any before filled the Capitol Plaza. Leaders, soldiers, civilians. Ships hovered overhead, broadcasting the moment across the stars. The princess stepped forward, Evan at her side. She raised her voice. "Today," she said, "we stand alive because one human chose not to kill, not to flee, but to endure." She turned to Evan. "The inner gate was not a weapon," she continued. "It was a test. And humanity was the answer." Across the galaxy, the message spread. Humans were no longer seen as fragile newcomers. They were recognized as something rare, partners to the ancient. Later, as the city rested under a quiet sky, Evan stood alone on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt capital. The stars felt closer now. The princess joined him. "You changed everything," she said softly. Evan shook his head. "No, I just didn't quit." She smiled at that. "The gate still listens to you," she said. "It remembers." Evan looked toward the palace where the living heart of the world slept. "Good," he said. "Tell it I'll visit." She laughed quietly. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. You do not fear humans because they are strong. You fear them because when faced with the impossible, they step forward.